As a driven dentist, you see the world differently. Where some see scarcity, you see abundance. When others want to give up, you keep going. You're building an amazing life of significance. That means you can't rely on ordinary advice from ordinary advisors to get to your goals. You want advice that's going to help maximize your net worth so you can take even better care of the people you love, the causes you care about, and make your dent in the universe. But the fact is, this advice remains hidden because relatively few professionals are well versed in them, and the extremely affluent don't care to let you know about them. Join us as we pull back the curtain to reveal the often hidden advice and strategies used by today's most successful individuals and families. Welcome to Dental Wealth Nation. Here's your host, Tim McNeely.
Welcome, everyone, to another edition of Dental Wealth Nation. And wow, am I excited to have you here today. You see, by the time we finish today, you're going to know what it takes to build a successful marketing plan for your practice. You're going to have a much better understanding of what goes into creating a successful marketing plan, including before someone comes into your office, while they're in your office, and more importantly, what happens after they leave your office. And we're going to dive in. You're going to actually walk away with some insights and have the ability to get a one-page business worksheet that's really going to help simplify your life. But more importantly, you're going to feel empowered and motivated to move forward and make this the best year ever in your practice. And I'm so excited with our guest today. We've got Patrick Chavoustie, and he is the co-founder of Omnipremier. And for the past 27 years, he's been helping dentists just like you build strong and healthy practices. Patrick, welcome to the show.
Hey, Tim. I can't tell you how grateful I am to be here today. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, absolutely. Likewise. And marketing sometimes can be a little, strategic. Sometimes it can be a happy accident too. And actually, when we were talking before the show, I asked you, Patrick, how did you get started? And you said, the truth be told, it was actually a happy accident. So share a little bit about how you got into this 27 plus years ago.
Yeah. 27 years ago, I was working in a sales organization and started working more and more in their marketing department of their national company. And so I ended up really kind of taking on their print advertising, which was 7 figures a month, and a good deal of their television and radio advertising too, mostly in print. So that's where I started with it. I started, 15 years ago, I should say 19 years ago. I was approached by a company that was working specifically in the digital space and knew that I had brick and mortar experience and wanted me to jump on board their team. And I did. That company, which I was fortunate enough to be a shareholder in, ended up selling to a publicly traded company. I was kind of forced out of that industry for a period of time for non-compete reasons. Started working with plastic surgeons, and I was working with plastic surgeons nationally. To this day, I still do some, not as much as dentistry or working with dentists. When a cosmetic dentist said, "Hey, I want to do something outside the box. I see you're working with this plastic surgeon here in town. They're having great results. Can you help me market my services to people who may be interested in them?" And sure enough, that's how we jumped into it. So by accident, and then one thing that led to another, and now we're doing, dentistry. I work in it daily. It's my favorite zone that we're in, out of the 3 major areas that my company works in. And so that's it. I mean, it's just, phone call. That's all it took.
Wow, that's amazing. And so right, you mentioned you spend the most time in dental right now, and it's the favorite part of the different kind of segments that you work in. What do you love about working in dentistry so much?
So what I love about dentistry, of course, we have the insurance component part of it, but I see dental practices as being very similar to any other consumer-driven industry. And I know that there's a lot of dentists that would argue and say that it's not, and I can agree with them from a clinical point of view. But from the way that the consumer sees it, at the end of the day, you're not just competing for their dental dollars, you're competing for the dollars that people would spend on anything else that they enjoy in their life. That trip to Disneyland or, a new car or what have you. So that part of the business, I find fascinating. I always have.
Yeah, you know what? I remember years ago when I first got it started in dental, and just like you, I love dentistry. I get to sleep with the dentist every night, and I'm married to her, so that's a good thing. But
Yep.
I remember working with a real top tier consultant, and his statement was, you know what, your competition isn't the dentist down the street. The competition is all the magazines that you've got laying in your front lobby, advertising a new cruise or a new set of golf clubs or the latest vacation. Right? So often, that's what the consumer and you as the doctor are actually competing against are the dollars that they may spend elsewhere.
100%. Yeah. I mean, we know that everyone has a mouth, right? That everyone certainly does. And 50% of the general public, and everyone who knows this, doesn't see the dentist regularly, right? And it's not because of 50% of the population doesn't like the dentist or hates the dentist or any of these other terms that are less than ideal to hear. It's because their dollars they have other things that they would want, that they would like to spend their money on. Right. And that's why we don't see people come in until there's an emergency or, later on in life. So that to me is just, there's literally 50% of the market is untapped in dentistry. And I can't think of any other area of business that we see that. I can't.
Yeah, I mean, that's absolutely an amazing statistic to think that 50% of the market out there is really untapped. And we want to dive into that. And if you stick around to the end, you're going to get access to a one-page marketing worksheet that can really help you tap into that untapped 50%. But, I kind of want to back up some first too, Patrick, because I know so often terms get tossed around. We talk about marketing, we talk about advertising, we talk about sales, we talk about all these different things. And so, from a high level, is there a difference between marketing and advertising?
Huge difference. Yep. So I'm going to break it down like this. When I ask somebody what are they doing for marketing in their business, and they say, I'm not doing any marketing, that's nonsense. Marketing is anything that you do in a business that, or any organization for that matter, that a patient sees, consumer sees, right? So the hours that you're open is part of your marketing. Right? How you answer the phone, that's a huge part of your marketing. What does your practice look like? That's marketing, right? So it's not just how you get in front of new patients or potential patients. That's advertising, right? Marketing is everything that you do intentionally or unintentionally in your practice. If you have dirty lamps in your ops, that's marketing, right? And it's unintentional, right? Or maybe it's intentional. I don't really know. From the clothes that your employees wear to, what is the greeting when they answer the phone? Is it all the same or is it not? So literally every single thing that you do in your practice is marketing. Advertising is a very big part or an important part of a marketing plan, right? Is definitely one of the boxes that you need to have checked in a marketing plan. But advertising is how you get your messaging in front of your potential audience, right? Or the audience that you want to see. So that's the difference between advertising and marketing. So if you have a really poor experience, for instance, you could have the best advertising in the world, but if you answer the phone, like, why are you calling us? It's really bad marketing, right? So great advertising isn't going to work with extremely poor marketing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so it really sounds like, the marketing, right? What a different way to think about marketing. It's anything that your patients or, potential patients interact with, right? It's what they see, it's what they experience when they're interacting with you and your dental practice.
That's right. Yeah. When I get a phone call, it's a common phone call like, hey, I want to use your services. What can you do and what do you charge? The answer to that question is I don't know who you are. I don't know what services that you want to advertise. I don't know who the audience that you want to get in front of. And I don't know if you're even a dentist or not, right? You could literally just, have decided to call yourself a dentist and hung up a sign and, you're a criminal, right? You're fraudulent. So really, until any advertising company or marketing company understands who you are and what you're doing, it's really impossible to understand what you're trying to advertise. Right? So there's a lot of products on this earth that would be really fun to advertise, right? That would be really fun to help market. There's a lot of products on this earth that I simply wouldn't, right? Just because it's either a really bad product, it's a really bad service, or maybe I just don't agree with I don't identify with what they're doing. So So important to really understand what the marketing looks like. What's the experience look like for the patient before you even start to talk about advertising.
Wow. Now, right. So I appreciate that distinction, certainly understand it, but what happens if we start kind of doing that analysis at the office and we realize, man, my marketing, right? I got a whole lot of things that are not just right and how I want to present them. Is it even worth doing advertising yet?
That's a really good question. And I can't answer that question, but what I can tell you that if the more in order your practice is, the better experience that is for a patient, the better return on investment you're going to see from your advertising dollars. So if you look at it this way, if you went on Google right now and Googled fast food restaurant near me, and you found the one that has 1.1 stars and it has 1,000 negative reviews, and there's some of them are flat out scary. And then you looked at a restaurant that had 4.3 reviews or 4.3 rating in 1,000. Which one of those do you think for dollar would have a better return on investment? The 4.3, right? The better restaurant would certainly do better with their marketing dollars. And that's a real scenario, right? When you get coupons in the mail from restaurants, it's either because they're new and they need to get the word out, or they're struggling, right? If you're the best restaurant in town, if you think about it, you spend a few dollars on advertising, word of mouth takes off, return on investment is, through the roof. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. So it almost sounds like the marketing and advertising, you can really work on concurrently. And right, maybe your marketing isn't up to par. Maybe you don't have, all those stellar online reviews, but you can still be doing that advertising and at the same time be addressing all those marketing things to raise the ROI of the advertising that you're doing.
Yeah, and you should always be doing that, right? You should always be. The type of organizations that I want to work with, and I think the same with you, Tim, ones that are always trying to do better, like aren't comparing themselves to the person down the street. They're comparing themselves to the person they were yesterday or the business they were yesterday, and how do we improve from that? Kind of just to reiterate, if you had 100 phone calls, potential new patients into a practice today, and nobody answered the phone, and you spend $1 million or $100, your return on investment is going to be zero. Right? If nobody's answering the phone, it's going to be zero. So you can see how important that marketing really matters when it comes to your marketing plan matters when it comes to return on investment.
Yeah, so very, very true. Now, I know just kind of talking about this, right? I'm hearing you loud and clear. I get the importance of marketing, get the importance of advertising, but I can tell you, it starts to feel a little overwhelming. Just the couple of things we've mentioned, from answering the phones to how you dress in your practice to what does your waiting room look like to what are you doing advertising wise, and then just to think about all the different platforms, right? Print mail, you got all the social channels, you got Google, right? There's so much going on. How do you start down this road? How do you do an assessment of where you are? How do you start simplifying this so that you can make good choices and really move forward with that marketing plan that makes sense for your practice?
Yeah, that's probably the best question I've had asked of me in a long time. So, several years ago, I started to look at. I would get a lot of phone calls of people that are like, "Hey, I did this advertising, it didn't work, and can you help me?" And I would say, "Yeah, here, we can do this, and it's this much money." They go, "Well, I just spent this with this other company and it didn't work. Why would I spend money with you, and why would you call me?" Right? So I started to really investigate, hey, why does advertising fail for almost always? It literally does. And the reason is there is no plan, there is no strategy behind it. So I want you to kind of think about how simple it is to really lose weight and get in shape. It's really simple. It is. It's have a plan, right? A strategy, have a diet strategy, and have a workout strategy, right? And then the third ingredient that you need is you have to actually execute that. That's where people get in trouble, right? Is actually following through with it. So I say this all the time, like if I want to lose 50 pounds and get in shape, I actually have to have a diet over a long period of time that leads to getting in shape. And I have to have a workout plan that leads to that. I can't just do it on one day. I can't just eat a salad on Wednesday and go for a walk on a Thursday and step on the scale and expect 50 pounds to be gone, right? So unfortunately, there's no short steps to this. But what we can do is lay out that plan, right? Then it's, of course, up to everyone to execute it. So when we look at this plan, the first step that we have to start with is identifying a target audience, right? Who is your ideal patient and what do they look like? So just to give you an example, this is a call that we get. Went with this advertising company. I don't accept Medicaid. All I'm getting is Medicaid patients. Well, did the marketing company know what your audience is? What's your ideal patient? What are you looking for? Well, I never told them that. How are they supposed to market you, right? How are they supposed to advertise? So I like to tell people all the time, one of the first things you should consider, and this is step number 1 of that worksheet, Tim, is what are the people that bring you the most amount of joy to work with? Who are the types of people that are most like you? Because usually we like to work with people that are like us, right? So if you love fly fishing and you're 50 years old and you love golf, you might want to bring in patients that love fly fishing and golf, right? Think about the rapport that you're going to have with that patient when they come in that door, right? A lot of people just think, oh, I just want people within 3 miles of my practice because they're told that's the best place to find patients. What if you don't like those patients? Right? What if you don't identify with those patients, right? So first of all, identify an audience. And by the way, for the specialists out there listening, Tim, this audience may be direct to consumer, and it also might be to general practitioners, right? So it might be into general clinics to get referrals from them, right? So you'd have 2 different audiences. And this is what's important next, Tim, is you have to know what messaging goes to that audience. So if you think about this, if you are marketing to other doctors because you're a specialist and you're marketing to and advertising to the general public, you're going to have different messaging for both of them, right? So if you have 2 or 3 different niche audiences that you want to bring into your practice, that's okay to do. Make sure that your messaging is specific to that niche audience. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Does that add additional complexity when you're trying to target more than one niche, or is that something that's pretty easy to do?
It is easy. May not be the right word. It's relatively easy to do, especially when you know what the message is and who the audience is. Does it make your plan more complex? Yeah. Does it increase your return on investment? Significantly. Does it bring in the types of patients that you want to work with? Absolutely. Right. So it's worth that extra step to do.
Okay.
Now, for some practices, they may only have one niche audience. If you're a, customer yesterday, 30-year-old dentist, I just want to see a ton of Invisalign cases, and I want 20 to 25-year-old females coming into my practice, specifically. So what we're going to do with her is create messaging. We know the audience, so we know where to find them. And by the way, when you know what your niche audience is, you can actually get that message directly to them. So for instance, TikTok is a wonderful place for her to be because it's 70% of their users are under the age of 30. So, and then what type of messaging? Well, TikTok is filled with funny, silly dances. This is a type of doctor. Well, she's incredibly skilled and highly educated. She's into that funny little dance stuff. She's going to create some little funny dances, right? That are going to get the attention. So think about a 22-year-old person that goes, oh, wow, this doctor's having fun. This is the type of doctor that I want to go see to straighten out my teeth, right? So you can see how effective it would be. Now, she also does implants, right? If we sent that message to my mom, who's 70 years old, she's going to be like, who would go see this dentist? Nobody would. So you can see how important it is to segment your advertising, your messaging to that specific audience. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
A lot of people jump in and they go, hey, I want to be on Google, or I want to do direct mail, or I want to be in a magazine, or I want to be on a billboard. Well, don't make that decision until you know who your audience is, because if you want to reach, if you want to reach people who lean to the right that are 70 years old, don't go on CNBC, go on Fox, and choose the other. If you want to reach, a younger, more liberal audience, you go on CNBC. You don't go on Fox News. Make sense?
Oh, absolutely. So it really sounds like the question that we should be asking is not if I should be on Google or Facebook or TikTok or whatever the thing is tomorrow. We should be asking, where is our audience, right? Where are the patients that you want to see? And then let that drive the decision of where to do the advertising.
100%, right? Wow. Give you one more example on direct mail, because I get this question all the time. Does it work? Some people say it works great. Some people say it doesn't at all. I tried it one time and it didn't work. Now, remember that when I say I tried it one time and it didn't work, I tried going to the gym one time and I didn't leave there looking like Arnold Schwarzenegger, right?
You too?
Yeah, right. So you see what I'm getting at, right? So So the one-time thing is like, of course, almost anything that you try, you name it, skateboarding, golf, doesn't matter, juggling, right? There's hardly anything on this planet that we try one time and actually have success doing. So, direct mail, and I'll give you a for instance on this. I live in Colorado, and it's I think there's like more dogs per household in Colorado, per capita in Colorado than like anywhere in the country. Everybody has a dog. Everybody. I have 3 dogs, right? I think almost every one of our team members has dogs. So if you wanted to put out a message, if you're a dog lover like me, and if you're like my wife who supports every dog charity there is under the sun, and you wanted to reach people who love pets because you have something in common with them, if you send a direct mail piece to people who had donated to a pet-related charity in the last year with a picture of you and maybe your family and a couple of Labradors, think about how that's going to be received by the person who donated to the SPCA last year, right? I'm going to look at that and go, oh, wow, I'm a dog lover too. This dentist is a dog lover. This is where I want to go. I actually have a client who has 2, I think this might have changed a little bit with COVID, but has 2 poodles that are in his practice. They're comfort dogs, and people love it. You look at the reviews and people are like, I love the comfort. Advertise that to pet lovers. Don't advertise that to people who, suffer from pet allergies.
That's brilliant.
Yeah.
Very, very good. All right. So, right, you kind of start off with who do you love to work with, right? Who are you looking to attract? And then from there, what's that next step? I know we covered it, but from a high level, what was that again?
Yeah. So this is so we've got, the first is identify your audience. Second step is your messaging, right? Why should they come see you? So the messaging to those audiences that you've chosen. And then the third step is that's when you start to pick the media. Once you know your audience, then you can decide media. And that's platform. Media is, any place that you can potentially get your message in front of your niche audience. So TV, radio, print, door hangers, mail, Facebook, and TikTok. I mean, we could go on and on and on. Right. So those are the first 3 steps. Now we get into the during phase. So now somebody knows who you are. They've heard of you. They saw your messaging. Right. Now what do we do? And Tim, this is these next 3 boxes in this worksheet. These are probably the most critical that are also the most neglected across the board, right? So that really comes down to a lack of follow-up. You've done the heavy lifting, you've spent the money, you've done the work, you've gotten somebody to say, hey, what is this organization about? And then you just ignore them, right? That has to stop. Let me give you an example. You got to have a lead capturing system. Every single, and it's a fancy way of saying everyone who comes in contact with your practice, every single person, you need to have their contact information. You need to have a minimum their email address. That's simple nowadays. You probably should have their name and you probably should have their phone number. And let me give you a scenario of what this looks like. Someone who calls your practice, we all know this question. How much does it cost for blank? How much do you charge for a crown? How much do you charge for an extraction? Almost every person answering the phone across the country has been trained to answer that based on the policies and procedures of that practice, right? Maybe they give out a price, maybe they give out a price range, maybe they say we never give out a price. That doesn't matter to me right now. What you should be doing always is get their email address. That's a fantastic question. Here's how much we charge, or this is the range, or we won't tell you that, but let me do this. We have a free, we have a $39 new patient exam. Let me go ahead and email you the coupon so you have it. If you decide to come in, you can use that coupon. Okay, great. What's your email address? Right? Person gives you their email address. Now you have it. Guess what? Now you get to advertise to that person forever for almost free, right? It's digital newsletters are next to nothing. You can upload that email address into a social media platform and potentially advertise to the person there for pennies, right?
Wow.
So ideally you want to create your own audience, because when you advertise on Google, direct mail, you're just renting an audience, right? You're renting Google's audience, Facebook's audience, the US Postal Service's audience. What you want to do is build your own audience so you no longer have to spend money or can significantly lower what you're spending on outside sources and just have your own market to advertise to. Does that make sense?
Yeah, right. And what a simple, easy way to get an email address is, you know what? Give me your email address so I can send you a coupon. Who doesn't?
Yep.
Here's my email. right?
Yeah, so it works two ways too. So
Oh my gosh.
it's a win-win. There's a television cook. His name is Alton Brand. He's probably the only guy that I ever watched. I haven't watched him in years, but he said you should never have anything in your kitchen that doesn't perform more than one task, right? So if it performs one task, you don't need it in your kitchen. This right here can perform multiple tasks, because if you think about it, if it's a price question and they're saying how much is an extraction, that's a good one. How much does an extraction cost? You're not the only dentist they're calling. If you email them, right, and they have that, even though they may call 3, 4, 5 other dentists, you've gotten in front of them twice. You have to talk to them on the phone, and now you've got an email in front of them. What are the odds are, if price it's not the issue anymore, what are the odds that they contact you again? Through the roof. You never know what's going to change with people. They may be asking about an extraction today. 5 years from now, they may be very financially successful and talking about implants.
Yeah.
Right. So free. So how are you going to nurture an audience, right? So once you have an audience, if they're just in your database and you're not doing anything with them, you're missing out on opportunities. So digital newsletter is a really easy way to nurture an audience. Social media is a really easy, cost-effective way to stay in front of your audience, right? You just always want to be in front of people. You probably don't have a listener who has not heard of McDonald's. McDonald's is in front of people all the time because they're nurturing their audience. They're just staying in front of them. They're keeping them warm. So it's always on somebody's mind when, they didn't go to the gym that day and they've got, a craving for something not so healthy. So you got to nurture that audience.
Wow. I love it, right? This is so simple, so easy, and you're really starting to bring just a very clear path forward on how to build that marketing plan. And all of a sudden, all these unrelated things, I'm starting to see how they really fit together.
Right? Yeah, and you're going to even see this more here in a few minutes, because when we get into step number 6, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that, but it's how to convert a patient, how to convert someone from that email list who's been kind of in your audience who hasn't come in, how to convert them. There's a lot of different ways to do that. Here in Colorado, everyone says that September is really slow in dental practices. I think some of it is a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? We've decided it's going to be slow, so it is. But one of the things that you can do is, if you have people that are in your audience and they haven't been in, and you have 300 email addresses of people that called you in the last year but never came into your practice, advertise a special in September. Do a low cost. If you're wide open, if your schedule's not booked up, that's a good time to offer a promotion, right? That's the time to offer a discount. Don't offer discounts when you're busy, right? Yeah. Basic supply and demand, right? So, think of good ways. Step number 6 to convert people that are listening to you or have heard you, but haven't come into your practice.
Excellent, right? You do that, and all of a sudden you may start saying nobody comes in September anymore because we're too crowded.
100%. Yeah. I mean, that's not a bad thing, right?
Yeah.
So then we get into after. So this is another area that I think, I don't think I know people miss out on a lot. So we look at step number 7 is, how are you going to deliver a world-class experience? Right. And so I think a lot of people think today, and in this, we work with a bunch of startups. We get a lot of calls from startups. We love working with a reasonable amount of startups at a time. And a lot of these startups are beautiful, right? When you walk into that practice, it's amazing, right? New modern design, all the latest equipment. I mean, it's just nice. You got chandeliers and, food and beverage bars and all this kind of stuff. That's part of the experience. But another part of the experience is, I like to think about Nordstrom's. If you ever bought something at Nordstrom's, when you're paying for it, when the person's done checking you out, they never hand a bag over the counter. They walk it around the counter. Just a simple little thing, right? So you don't need to spend money to build a world-class experience. You need to answer the phone, right? You need to answer the phone the same way. You need to greet your patients the same way when they come in. If you book a new patient appointment for tomorrow at 1:00 for Patrick, and a person that you've never seen before walks in 5 minutes early, guess who that is? It's Patrick, right? And you can greet, hello, are you Patrick? Yeah. Oh, we're so glad that you're here, right? Just a simple little thing, right? The way that you bring someone back to the ops, everything is that world-class experience. So what are the little tiny things that you can do to provide that 5-star experience to people without spending money?
Yeah. Right. And I don't think oftentimes you realize that by not doing just those little simple things, you can lose business. I recall years ago, I had a doctor's appointment, walked into the doctor's office, and they were busy, which is great. And I said, I'm here for my appointment. And they said, well, sit down and we'll call you when you're ready. And they didn't ask who I was. And after about 20 minutes, I said, do you need to know who I am? They're like, we'll get to you. And after another 10 minutes, I walked out and I said, I'm not going back to that practice.
That's right.
Right? Didn't greet me. They didn't know who I was, and they didn't appreciate that I was there. And if they were busy and said, "Hey, we're super," right, I would have stayed because I would have felt cared for. And like you're talking about, just those little simple things can really turn the tide and make your patients feel special.
Yep. Yeah, and you're so right. It just matters. And you think about from the advertising, why does advertising fail? Sometimes it fails because the experience is so poor. Right. So again, it doesn't matter how much advertising a bad restaurant does. Eventually, it's going to fail. Right. Unless they charge next to nothing. They're charging $1 for a hamburger. They're always going to have an audience. Right.
Yep.
If there's a quality. So I actually recommend, look at other practices, call other practices from time to time, kind of see what they're doing. What does it look like there? How do they answer the phone? How are they treating patients? And always be looking around your practice and go, hey, what can we do to improve this experience for the consumer? There's so many ways you can do it without spending money. Right? Yeah. And that leads into, the next couple of things is, step number 8 is, how do you increase the lifetime value of the patient? Part of it is the experience, right? So you can kind of see how all these boxes work together, right? It's following up with the patient. Today, I won't mention the name, but we'll all know what I'm talking about. I see a lot of people upset about ortho being offered, clear aligners being offered directly to patients, right, on the internet or via phone call. And a lot of people are upset about that. The reason why these organizations exist, and there's one big one, is because dentists aren't telling their patients everything that they offer. A lot of people don't know. They'll go out and get clear aligners not knowing that their dentist offers clear aligners. Or their dentist doesn't offer clear aligners, but knows an orthodontist down the hallway or down the street who's going to give a fantastic outcome and would say to them, hey, go see this expert, right? Here's what you should do. So make sure in your practice that when a patient is new to the practice, that they are handed something that lists all of the services that you offer. Make sure that they know everything that you can possibly do for them. And you should probably remind them of that a couple of times per year, right? Through a digital newsletter, through what you're putting on social media. I mean, most people have big screens. It's pretty easy in their practice. It's pretty easy to build a loop and tell people, hey, we offer this, we offer this, we offer this, right? So simple way to increase patient lifetime value. Let them know what you do.
Love that.
Something else that I recommend, and I think this is actually, let's jump to step number 9, which is a strategy to inspire and curate referrals. Right? One of my favorite questions and answers, like clockwork, that I get from a lot of dentists is, how do you get your new patients? Oh, I get a ton of referrals, all referrals. How many referrals do you get? I don't know. I get 20 a month, 15 a month, 30 a month, whatever they say, right? How do you know how many referrals you should be getting per month, right? So don't be happy with how many referrals you're getting per month without knowing how many you should be getting per month, right? So if you don't have a system to curate and bring in referrals, you're getting less referrals than you should be getting. And I will tell you flat out, Tim, I'm not a lot of people go, oh, I should pay for them. I should say, hey, bring your friends in and I'll give you a $50 gift card. I think that's a terrible idea myself. I have some customers that do it and I tell them that's not something they should do, because what you're doing is you're actually saying, hey, Patrick, if you send me your friend, your friend's worth $50 to me. My friends are worth more than $50. And then you're also telling me whatever treatment you just told me I needed is only worth $50. That you're putting a value on the service, right? So that is much lower than what it actually is. So make sure that you have a plan to do that. Ask for them, have it in multiple places in your practice, how important it is to you that they refer your friends. Send a note when you get one. So I have my insurance agent. Anytime I send her a referral, sends me, I think it's a $10 or a $20 Starbucks gift card. I never even use the gift card. I hand it to my wife. She uses the gift card. But it's such a nice thank you. Like, I think about her and then I go, wow, that's really nice. I'm glad she did this. I'm appreciative. Thanks goes a long way. We all know that, right? How much a thank you goes. And my next thought is, who else can I refer to her? How do I get that? How do I get that feedback again? How do I get another thank you from her, right? She really appreciates it. So I'm more inclined to send her more referrals, right? So anytime a patient sends you a referral, send them a gift card. And send them $20 to wherever, $25. Tell them how much it means to you, how appreciative, and let them know you'll take care of them. That person will send you so many more referrals than they ever did before. I don't know many people that actually do this.
Yeah. Right. What a powerful strategy to really be able to increase those referrals. And I love what you said. It's not just enough to ask how many referrals you got. You should be asking how many should I be getting? And I'm guessing that's a number you can help people figure out.
Yeah, you should. I mean, it is. Old school dentists, and I mean this when they used to work really hard before there was these other forms of advertising that they participated in. And the goal was always to get 5 referrals from every single one of your patients. 5. And that's a lot. I mean, if you think about it, if you have 1,000 patients in your practice, how many referrals is that? It's 5,000 referrals, right?
Yep.
I mean, that's a ton of business. And this is how practices did it before Google or even the Yellow Pages, right? Same exact way. So yeah, have a number in mind that's based off of a goal from each patient that you have currently, right? So I think it's also increasing the lifetime value of that patient too, right? Because you're not just increasing the lifetime value in the sense of how much money will they spend with me and invest with me over the course of how many will their friends and referrals. So if I come into your practice and I spend $10,000 there, right? You would think my lifetime value is 10, but it's really not. If you get 5 referrals out of me that spends 10,000, now it's 60 grand, not $10,000. Huge difference.
Yeah, right. And that lifetime value, right? I think that's so overmissed by so many people because you're just looking at, what's right in front of you instead of, what does this actually represent in terms of referrals, future treatments, friends, and family.
Yep. Going back to step number 8, and again, these are all connected to one another. Step number 8, a little tip or trick I'll give you is when you have a patient that calls at the end of the year and says, I need my records because my insurance changed and you no longer accept my insurance. That's a pretty common phone call, right? Follow up with that patient. They may go to another dentist and not like it there whatsoever. When they go, okay, I don't care about my insurance. I want my old dentist back. So stay in front of that person. A lot of people just get spiteful and go, oh, well, good riddance. I'm glad they're gone, Follow up with them. And also remember too, that insurance might change again in 9 months back to an insurance or 12 months, I should say, back to an insurance that you accept. So if you message them in November, say, hey, has anything changed with your insurance? We'd love to have you back. Or we'd love to have you back. We have an in-house plan for people like you who would rather be here, but insurance doesn't cover it. Maybe that person ends up coming back, but who does that? And it's low-hanging fruit. It's almost free to advertise to that current customer.
Yeah, right. If you've been doing your work all along and when they first came on, if you got that email address, it's real easy to stay in touch with them and to remind them you're there in case they don't have such a good experience with whoever they go to next.
Yeah, that's right.
Wow. And very, very powerful. And so now you've been able to actually put together these different steps in a one-page marketing workbook, correct?
Yeah, it's just a worksheet. Yeah, I just created a simple worksheet. Now, will you need to go into more details on some of these? 100%, right? But it should give you the bullet points like, hey, if these 4 or 5 areas, if we really work on these, right, for each one of these boxes within the worksheet, yeah, absolutely. Someone understanding what these boxes are can literally sit down in a couple of hours. We usually set aside about an hour and 15 minutes to do it with one-on-one with a dentist. But themselves, they can do it in a couple hours and really say, hey, here's this plan. And if they stick to the plan, they're going to have success. 100% of the time, they're going to have success.
Wow. And so this is something I can, contact you, do on my own, or it sounds like you're willing to sit down and work through this with me also.
100%. Yeah. And partly, Tim, this industry didn't, it was, I don't really believe in luck or anything like that, but it did fall in my lap, right? So it's something I'm very grateful for, something amazing that happened to me that I don't deserve, that I didn't do anything really to gain. I love to get back to the community. What I don't like to see happen, and I see it all too often, is people fail and waste tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars, trying things that just don't seem to ever work for them. Right? They get frustrated, they get depressed. They want to go back to, working for somebody else if they've recently started a practice. And if I can help someone really kind of understand the difference and save a lot of money, and even more so, see a significant return on investment, I would rather do that, have them go somewhere elsewhere than just work with, somebody who's just going to take their money and run all day long.
Yeah, no, and I appreciate that. And that's why I love having people just like you on the show, Patrick, is because your heart is really making sure that you're getting taken great care of, whether it's, with you or someone else. You just want to see people doing well. And unfortunately, there's providers out there that don't always do a good job. And really your focus of differentiating that marketing piece during advertising, I think is a huge value add, because there's a lot of companies that will just come in and turn all the advertising on, but your marketing isn't up to par. And like you said, you're not going to get that ROI. Whereas if you take the time to put that marketing in place to make sure that's working the way it should work, it's like having a bucket with holes versus a bucket without holes, right? If you're filling the bucket with holes up with water, it's not going to do any good. But if you plug those holes, all of a sudden your bucket's going to be full.
100%. Yep. And I use the analogy very similar. I say, and it's a good day for it because it's cold and snowy out here. If you have if I throw my furnace on in my house and open up every window in this place and all the doors, do you think it's really going to get warmer in here than outside? No, it's not. It's, it's just going to waste heating fuel, and it'd be just a mess. And that's what people do. They do it all the time. And when you see it happen all the time.
But the heater theoretically is working. It is doing its job. It is pumping out heat. But the problem is you're losing all that heat out the windows.
100%. Yeah.
So how can we get in touch with you? How can someone take advantage of this one-page marketing worksheet and work with you to actually take an analysis of their practice?
Yeah. So the easiest way is visit our website. It's omnipremier.com. They can go there and just fill out a form and ask for me. Ask for Patrick and just say, hey, they want the plan. I'll make sure that you have a copy. So anyone that contacts you, if you want to put it up on any of your social, you can do that as well. I actually, what we typically do when we do a session with people is I'll send them the worksheet ahead of time and say, hey, start looking at this, start thinking about this before our meeting. So, I think it would be great if you wanted to put it out on your social channels, you could do so. And then the last thing that they can do too is you can email us at info@omnipremier.com and just mention Tim's podcast, and we'll make sure to set you up.
Excellent. Yeah, I just posted the link to the website in the chat, so everyone has that now, and we'll make sure to get that out there. And I would encourage you, take advantage of this, right? I don't do these shows for your entertainment. I do these shows to bring you valuable content so you can take action, build that amazing life of significance, take better care of the people you love, causes you care about, keep changing the world for the better. But to do that, you got to take action. And so, Patrick, any closing thoughts before we sign off here?
Tim, I am all out of thoughts. No, I'm kidding. Yeah. There's so much. I certainly like the kid. Work on that experience. Make sure everybody's on the same page. And then, the thing that I can't say enough, answer your phones. And people this is a common thing that happens, is they take a lunch break from noon to 1:30. Everybody takes a lunch break during that time. But if you are an hourly employee, right, which so many people are, you may only be able to make phone calls for your family during your lunch break. So at 12 o'clock, I got to make an appointment for me and my children and my spouse for, to get into the dentist. It's 4 or 5 people that want to get in, and they at 12:05, and it says, sorry, we're on a lunch break. If it's an emergency, call 911. If not, leave us a message and we'll get back to you. That person doesn't leave a message. They hang up the phone and they call the next dentist. If they don't answer, they hang up the phone and they call the next dentist. You would be shocked at the amount of money of new patient growth that is being lost on a monthly basis from practices that just don't answer the phone. Stagger the lunches. It's not that hard. Answer that darn phone. And one other tip, I tell people this all the time, and practices that have done it have seen their new patient appointments throw through the roof without doing anything different. consider paying your team a bonus for any new patient who calls and books and actually shows up. So $5, doesn't matter what it is, right? Some small bonus. And here's what will happen. Sorry, you said one last moment. I got another.
This is good stuff. You can keep going.
Thanks, Tim. If you offer just a $5 bonus, what happens right now is in most practices across the country, the busier the practice gets, the more money the dentist makes, right? But typically the team's salary stays the same. Their income stays the same. So they have to do more insurance verifications, more follow-up, more billing, more phones, on and on and on. They're adding to their workload. Their income stays the same. So when someone calls and wants to book an appointment, how enthusiastic are they really? To them, it's like, the truth is, hey, your workload's increasing and you're going to get paid the same. That's what that phone call is to so many people, right or wrong. If you give them a bonus to book, think about how they're going to answer the phone. First, they're going to run to answer the phone, right? You're going to have people tripping over themselves to answer that phone within 1 or 2 rings. How are they going to answer? With a big smile, with enthusiasm, with excitement. They're going to be so pleasant because they want that patient to come in, right? To book that appointment in and come in and sit down, because then they get that bonus, right? So something I recommend that everyone do. When I'm able to talk practices into doing this, no other changes, new patient bookings go up always.
Wow. That's one thing you can go back and you can implement this afternoon. You don't even have to wait till tomorrow. You can do that right now today. That's Patrick, right. Wow. What a powerful idea and a simple thing to do.
Yep. So that's going to be my last thought, Tim. Implement that one today. Yep.
I love it. Well, I know I'm certainly walking away with a much better understanding of how to build that successfully marketing plan for a practice. I certainly have a much better understanding in what goes into creating that plan, right? Including, right, looking at the before a patient comes in, when they're in the office, and then after they leave your practice too. And a great resource, right? That 1-page business worksheet to really simplify my life and your life as the listeners. But more importantly, I certainly feel empowered and motivated to just grab 1 or 2 of these things to book a call with you, to really explore, how can we make sure that your practice is doing the best for you. So once again, Patrick, thank you for sharing so generously with us.
Awesome, Tim. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate you.
Hey, great to have you here. And for all our listeners, we're looking forward to seeing you again soon on another edition here of Dental Wealth Nation.
You've been listening to Dental Wealth Nation. We hope you've gotten some useful and practical information from the show. Join us next time as we pull back the curtain to reveal the often hidden advice and strategies used by today's most successful individuals and families, and help maximize your net worth so you can take even better care of the people you love. Till next time, make sure to hit the website at dentalwealthnation.com.